Hello there. Welcome. I have with me some familiar faces and some new faces as well. And our goal today is to talk about the pricing of the Star Wars CCG market. So we want to talk about where are things going? Are they going up? Are they going down? This video is intended to help establish a little bit of price transparency. But before we dive in too deep, I want to hand it off and introduce our lovely, is this a panel? I don't know, like a group of people in a square. Let's go to Mark first.
Hey, Matt. Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm Mark. I run the Darth Grader eBay channel. I also have a YouTube also by the same name and an Instagram. Big lover of Star Wars CCG. Collected it as a kid. Back into it right before COVID. Really liking where the hobby's going. Getting even a little bit into the game. And yeah, happy to chat with you guys and glad you're here viewing the video as well.
Cameron McMillan. Mandalorian Mints on Instagram and Card Collector Passion on eBay. Co-founded rotogrinders.com. Recently sold it, so I have a lot of time off to focus on Star Wars collectibles.
Thanks, Matt. My name's Greg. I'm a player, collector, part-time reseller. Came back to the game back in 2015 and have been playing and collecting since then, as well as some of more recently tracking prices as much as possible in my spare time.
So I got to admit that all you guys have better handles than me between Mandalorian Mints, Darth Vader, and I think your eBay name is like Strider or something, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
much better branding. Just hats off to you guys.
Full inspiration to Darth Grader on that one for me.
Darth Grader, I think, is the win there. So before we kind of get into it, I kind of want to just establish why we want to do this. I came back to this hobby in 2020 and I wondered what the heck should anything cost, right? Or is this going up? Is this going down? So this video at a very basic level is trying to create a bit of price transparency for new players and collectors, or even, old players and collectors. We want to have a sort of resource, and we're going to try to do this video every quarter. So I think this will be quarter 3, let's say, of what are things, priced at? What should they be priced at? Are you getting a good deal or bad deal, et cetera? So we're going to go over some data. We're going to cover, singles, sets, graded, sealed maybe a little bit, Japanese. We're getting the whole gamut, right? We're doing everything today. So, and then we're also going to provide some insight where we think for random dudes things are going. So that's kind of what we hope to do with this video. And we're going to kind of start off with just a general overview of the market. And I'll start off with my hot take is I think the market is hot and I'm bullish on it. It seems like things have kind of gone up and they continue to go up, and we haven't had a retracing that other hobbies have seen, but that's at least my take. And also this shirt is a very heavy cotton, so I might be changing mid video here, but that's sort of my take at the top here. Cam, what's your take on things? What's your summary?
A phenomenal time for a show, Matt. I mean, we're in the midst of an American recession. The stock market's down a ton. Interest rates are skyrocketing. Everyone's getting a little nervous. So, where do we stand with cards? I'm really glad we have the crew here is very passionate about we're data guys. We're nerds who like to be in spreadsheet and talk numbers. And I've seen Greg's spreadsheet. Mark and I like working on ours it's a fun side project. If you look at the numbers, there's some interesting data. I mean, we'll get into specifics on why, but so far the Star Wars market hasn't been trending down in proportion to the U.S. economy, it seems.
You want to take it first, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in agreement here. I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk about any data yet, but certainly things have not been trending down with sales, with average sale prices. Things have slowed down a little bit, and I think in 2022 things have been a bit more static than they had been in 2020 and 2021. But compared to other areas where things have trended down significantly, I mean that's still showing that Star Wars CCG is quite strong.
Yeah, RIP to interest rates, right?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiments that y'all have been expressing, and I think we'll get a little bit later in our discussion on just some of the particulars as to why we think maybe Star Wars CCG has been doing all right from a price stance. And yeah, certainly with all the fear and uncertainty coming around with potential recessions and all that sort of stuff, it makes sense that people are kind of they take a lot of care in where they put their time and their money, especially as it is now. But yeah, I've been pretty pleasantly surprised as far as the resilience of people's interest in Star Wars CCG as a collectible that they're putting their money and time into. And yeah, I guess we can go further into that later on in the discussion.
Sure. So I think this is a great time to transition over. So I mentioned some resources and some tools. We've hinted at some spreadsheets. So why don't we first kind of go to Greg, who is our chief dataologist on the channel, and he has maintained fastidiously a spreadsheet, and I'll let him kind of talk about it a bit more.
Yeah, so I have a spreadsheet. It's publicly available, and I guess there's gonna be a link to it in the show notes. I really want as many people as possible to be able to see this and access it and get a sense for these numbers. But the basic gist is that I keep a spreadsheet that tracks the average sale price of complete sets that are sold on eBay. I mean, this is just the data I have access to, right? So I can't track sales elsewhere, but I track complete set sales on eBay. Also high value singles, basically the ultra rares, ultra rare foils, and AI from Carson and Thieves. So all of that data is there. I've been doing this now for a couple of years, especially for the complete sets. So there's quite a lot of data. So you can see not just the current average sale price. I kind of have a 3-month rolling average that's always visible. But you could also see the averages from 2021, 2020, 2019. And then there's some analysis on the spreadsheet as well. You know, I started this a few years ago, basically just for my own interest, to know how to price things, to know, what was a fair price to sell things at, what to buy things at, and it's kind of ballooned since then. But so to say something maybe more interesting than that for the folks watching and listening, I guess one thing to start with is maybe a kind of big general takeaway from Star Wars CCG over the last couple of years, which is that on the whole, from 2021 relative to 2020, there was a 50% increase in Star Wars CCG, which itself was a 50% increase from 2019 to 2020. And there has been, even though I said things have been a bit static, there has continued to be a bit of an increase in 2022 as well. To give you some real numbers, if you were looking to put together a complete English language master set in 2019, and by that I mean every black border set, every white border set, black border sets, including the AI, including the foil sets, reflection set, tournament foil set. In 2019, that would have cost you about $5,000. In the last few months, that would have cost you about $15,000. So we're talking about a total of a 200% increase from 2019 to now. So obviously a huge increase. I don't know, Matt, do you want me to sort of talk a bit more about some specifics increases?
Why don't we actually go to Cam, and then we can get to the specific increases maybe after we kind of talk about Cam's spreadsheet. So, Greg has a spreadsheet that tracks kind of single sale, set sale. Cam also has another spreadsheet that he maintains, and these will all be in the show notes, so all kind of publicly available tools.
Yeah, why don't you can give me a quick screen share while I'm talking, Matt, but I think this was like many people, a COVID project. Mark's got a little bit of a data background, and we were charting some prices one day. Well, he was, and I'm a big data guy, so he's been inputting some of the data. It just kind of started as a fun project. We like doing it, but we've got a graded tab and a sealed tab. I have a little welcome page here with some of the FAQs that come across. We mostly use the site 130 point for tracking, and because you can see what an accepted offer is. Since this video is for people who are maybe newer and trying to find the best price, like rule 1 is do not just go on eBay and use the listing price as as a fair listing. Rule of thumb is like 95% of items are overlisted. You're looking to either make an offer or bid on an auction. And 130 point is nice because it'll show you the actual sale price instead of just here, like a best offer accepted, instead of just what the listing price was.
Hey, Cam, I think real quick, there's the share button, share screens at the bottom there.
Oh, I got to do it.
You press
Newbie.
it. Yeah.
My bad.
Let you know.
No one missed anything here. Okay. I'm getting like Google Chrome pop-ups, and I can do it while I talk. So anyways, Mark and I were started in 2020. You're going to see basically, I have to quit and reopen. We'll just do this later. Why don't we throw this to Mark? I'm gonna reboot it, and then we can go through some graded scales.
Okay.
Mark, and we'll let Mark talk about the sealed section of the spreadsheet.
You're on mute, Mark.
Some technical difficulties here and there. We'll get through them. But are you guys able to see the? Let's see. I guess I can pop that up. Let's see. How do we? There you go. See, we're getting through this. All right, so here we have our sealed and graded tracker. Cam's made a nice landing page here. So this is what you'll see when you land here, and some particulars I'm sure Cam will get into. Got the graded singles page that he'll discuss a little bit on, and this is the page that perhaps I'm specializing a little bit more on. We got the sealed tracker here with, of course, the different sets, the date of sale. We do have some data points from before 2020 that I believe some other folks had gathered as well. Sale prices. In terms of just overall trends, you can see we go through time. Prices went up significantly, as Greg mentioned, not just on the complete sets, but also sealed as well, particularly from 2019 to 2020 and to 2021, maybe a little bit as well. And then to 2022, we have data. Again, I think eBay only keeps track of the previous 3 months, so we've been pretty diligent about trying to catch the data points before they fall through the cracks, never to be seen again. As far as prices of sealed goes, even with actually call it pseudo recession as a recession. I think it was officially a recession with the earnings, but for the most,
if you don't say it, it doesn't exist. Right?
That's right, exactly. It's hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. The prices of certain sets are still going pretty strong. I will say that there is some volatility there. Like I believe recently, again, I haven't sorted the. Let's see, I could do that right now actually. So, like, for example, there are a few special edition sets or sealed boxes that sold for quite a bit lower than previously. Congrats to whoever got those. When I saw those sales on eBay, I was thinking, man, I wish I'd picked those up, but congrats to whoever did that. But yeah, like Premier, Limited, Cloud City, $399 is actually pretty high compared to what it's been going for. So Premier Limited, going for $400 to $500. I think it's been going for about that much for a decent amount of time now. There's a lot of volatility there, but as far as just prices here haven't really, I wouldn't say crashed at all or anything. If anything, they're pretty constant overall in general compared to just how they've been going the past few months to year, I'd say. I guess it seems like maybe this is just anecdotal, but stuff like Premiere seems to kind of go up in jumps every once in a while. Because I remember a couple of years back, it was about maybe $200 a box, and then it kind of jumped to $300, and then at some point it jumped up to maybe $400, $500. So maybe since there's kind of a small number of sealed out there in the wild, because this is, how old is it now? 25 years old roughly. Yeah, there's probably not too many out there. So if someone gets back in and decides they want to start collecting sealed, perhaps they can kind of impact.
So I'm wondering, could you kind of talk a little bit, Mark, about why sealed is such like a good holder of value, right? Because it seems like sealed product does not really oscillate. It seems to only go up. What's your take on that? I mean, I think it's because it's a finite product, but you're the one tracking in a spreadsheet.
So yeah, there's a couple of things. You brought up a good point that sealed, right? Because there's only so many of them in the world. They haven't been made for 25 years. People break them, whether just for the fun of opening packs or to resell packs from the box. So for those reasons, yeah, it's kind of a finite resource. It's interesting because the expected value of a box, the sealed box, is probably much lower, at least if you were selling the raw cards, than the sealed box itself. So there's probably incentive to buy the box just to kind of keep it as is. And yeah, I think there's a lot of value in it just because it was, I mean, it still is, but when it was being produced, it was a really desirable card game from a really desirable IP. And, there's probably not that many of them out there. I don't know how many of boxes of, let's say, like Reflections 3 or Reflections 2 still exist out there sealed. I can't imagine there's that many of them. And, for completionists or collectors, if you want to get one, well, there's only so many to go around and a lot of people that want them. So it's just simple supply and demand, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I agree largely that the one thing that I have learned over the last 3 years of getting back into collecting is never underestimate the American garage.
Right.
I just saw a guy today on one of the message boards post a picture of 7 sealed boxes that he had in his garage or something. And I was like, oh, okay. People have this crap just in their garages still.
I'm always so jealous of those finds.
Right. I'm like, oh, this guy just had a Hoth box, a Cloud City box, a Premier box, just in his whatever, somewhere. I actually will say that I got most of my sealed from a guy who bought a storage unit that used to belong to a comic book store owner. And he just found it and he was like, I don't want this. And so I got an Endor box and an Endor box and a Tatooine box for very cheap because this guy just found them in a storage unit that belonged to a comic book collector. So weird stuff does happen like that, but generally speaking, yes, there's not new product being introduced. Cam, I think you're back.
We are back. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. Should be up and running here now.
All right, let's try handing it over the baton. Let's see how it goes.
All right, so we're in the graded tab now. This has pretty much every graded sale since about mid-2020 and on. It'll usually be sorted by character name, so you can quickly come through and find some comparisons. It's a little harder to get averages. I'm jealous of the sample size Greg has to work with because this is such a nascent market. There aren't a ton of comparables. Like Boba Fett's a card that's probably sold more copies than most, and we're starting to build up some PSA 8 data here. But even then, there's only 3 PSA 9s, so we can't quite average it out yet. But I think as time goes on, we will be doing that. So a couple things I just wanted to highlight for current state of the market. I've got the highlighted date here is I do a monthly update in the Star Wars CCG Facebook group of top sales. So I'm just going to do that on Matt's video today to shout it out. And I always give the premier Darth Vader's a little special highlight as an Easter egg. But just as a state of the market, things not really slowing down too much. We've got just on the 4th yesterday, a PSA 9 Mace Windu AI 235. This was a cool, we're starting to track some of the autos in here. So this is a BGS 9, Autograph 9, Dave Prowess, beautiful Darth Vader Premier card for 500. The Obi-Wan PSA 9 is going above 100 here. We can take a quick look at that with some other comparisons because there were a lot of sales during the Kenobi show. Queen Amidala, Ruler of Naboo, PSA 9 AI, $1,000. Beautiful card. That might have been, I don't know if that was a Mark sale or not, but
I think that was a Rafi sale.
It was Rafi. Okay. Knew it was kind of in the family. I wanted to give a special shout out on the show today to a Star Wars CCG graded member. I wrote his name down here. Henrik Schneider. We chatted, but he had 2 of the hardest cards to find: the tournament foil curling Corvette and Imperial class Star Destroyer. Finally getting some data points on those. I'm really excited to see that come in because I'm a big tournament foil guy. I guess we'll maybe talk about that later. But the PSA 9 curling Corvette, which anecdotally seems to grade better than the ICSD, went for $1,400, and the ICSD PSA 8 went for $1,900. And I think that's because the community's kind of realized that the ICSD doesn't grade quite as well for whatever reason. They were tournament foils, they were dragged across rooms, and dark side dark colors might get scuffed up a little more. Who knows exactly? Maybe there's more to the story if someone out there knows. But those are some massive sales. I talked with Henrik. He was happy with them. I think he got a good price on them. They did go at asking price, which is interesting. They went quick. So I was considering them, and they sold while I was considering them. So the market for those two cards is very hot right now, and I think it's something to monitor. So we're starting to get into those high-end prices you see with Magic and Pokemon with these $1,000 sales. There's three in a 3-day period. I mean, not too shabby during a recession. And then just one quick sort. If you sort by overall top sales, shout out to JP Peltier. We've had a $5,000 sale for a BGS 9.5 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight foil, one of the absolute tier 1 chase cards. Japanese Vader at 1,700, General Solo Endor foil 1,500, Darth Vader Unlimited Premier PSA 10 1,500. Segue back to Darth Vader. We finally have a PSA 10 limited, and we have no idea what it's going to go for if it ever does sell. But congrats, Mark, on getting the first one ever back. So that's how you can use this sheet to kind of find some comparisons that might help you in pricing for your graded purchases.
So that's specific to grading. So I think maybe let's go back to Greg a little bit and talk. So we did the grading and sealed, and we can kind of talk more about just general cards as well. So.
Sure, happy to say a little more. Now I guess I need to jump on the sharing screen bandwagon. So,
no screen share pressure.
Do it.
Let me pull this up here.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, this is the sheet. I mean, I'm sort of focused right now on the stuff that I think is most interesting to look at. But as folks come in, they can sort of scroll up and see all the individual data. But here at the bottom is where you can see, previous year average prices. And then, right now I have a 2022 average. Usually I have a 3-month rolling average for each set, all the way through the main sets and the foil sets, and then some analysis down here. And so this is, again, always available. I also show how many total data points there are, how many recent data points there are. Again, recent data points being the last couple months. And I guess some of the interesting things to say here is that, thinking about a complete set of black border non-foil sets, including AI though, but no foil, no white border, that's seen about an 8% increase in the first 6 months of 2022 relative to 2021, going from 6,000 to about 6,500 total. But it's worth noting that most sets have actually remained relatively static during 2022. That 8% increase is driven almost entirely by the increase in prices of Coruscant and Theed sets without the AI. Just those two sets without AI, and maybe to a lesser degree, Death Star 2. Coruscant is now sitting at about $750 and even pushing $800 these days. Theed is now pushing $650. These are like gigantic increases from where they were even just 6 months ago. AI have also remained relatively static in 2022. At the bottom here, I have another tab that will take you to the average sale prices for the ultra rares, LSJK, Emperor Palpatine, and then AI, Coruscant AIs, Theed AIs, and ultra rare foils. And these are all also updated every couple weeks. And then I mentioned that prices have been relatively static, but if you're looking at the numbers here for the complete master set from 2021-22, you actually see a pretty sizable increase. There's been a 33% increase in the first 6 months of 2022 relative to 2021, increasing from 11,500 to a little over 15,000. Now that increase has been driven by the huge increase in price for Ref 2 foil set, Ref 3 foil set, and tournament foil sets, and maybe to a smaller degree, the recent increase in white border sets. Ref 2 sets are currently sitting at around $2,000, maybe a bit more. It's hard to get data on those sets with and without the box toppers and case toppers. Ref 3 foil sets are about $3,300. Tourney foil sets around $1,800. But one thing that's I think worth noting here is that the 2021 averages for these sets had almost no data. I had like such a tiny sample size for those sets. and maybe I think even in the last 6 months of 2021, almost maybe zero data. So it's not so much that these foil sets and white border sets have seen like a kind of gradual increase over time, as much as just no one was selling them. And as soon as they popped up, I think they kind of started selling for what I expected them to. So that's why I said, even though there's this kind of gigantic increase from 2021, for the full master set, I think a lot of that is just a kind of sparsity of data for these like really big sets, where the individual cards like the ultra rare foils and some of the high value singles were already selling for a ton before the complete set started popping up.
That is one thing I'll say about this market is I think that there's a really small sample size, and like with tournament foil sets, and so I am still missing an Imperial class Star Destroyer foil. In my head, I mentally have an amount that I'm willing to pay, but it's like sharing that information with others, then like that becomes your willingness to pay, and like it's just difficult because there's no data. And I think that for that specific card, there's maybe 15 to 20 other people that also have a number in their head, and it's like whose number is highest will get the card whenever it comes up for sale.
Yeah, I would say that that 1.8K figure for tournament foils, I think that's probably undervaluing the set, just because that's the only one that popped up recently. It got snagged right away, and given some of the single sales for these cards recently, I expect that set to go up once we actually start seeing them pop up, if they do pop up as a complete set in the near future.
So I guess this is for everybody. What's been the most surprising thing over the last year? I'll start. I think the most surprising thing for me, although I shouldn't say it's surprising, but the valuation of white border sets increasing so much, particularly Hoth and Dagobah. I've been kind of harping that these are underprinted and underloved. Love me some white border Hoth, but I think that now both those sets are worth significantly more than their black border counterparts. So that's been the big surprise for me. But I expected it, but it's been pretty stark.
I can share some anecdote on I have a good bidding war story on the revised Dagobah. Made B-Fred's day that day. I made a rookie maneuver of just entering a DGAF number on the revised Dagobah, and there was another bidder who did. So I don't know if Greg, you have your spreadsheet handy, but I think it went. I purchased one recently for $800.
That was you, huh?
I was not expecting to pay that much. I think I just threw out 1,000 because they don't come up often, and I was like, I was a little OCD in like I need this one today, and I don't usually do that. To be clear, I think I did that for the white bordered 2 sets that Matt just talked about. Those are the 2 sets that I threw out a crazy bid at. I'm like, I'm just getting these for whatever it costs, and I threw out 1,000 and thinking I was going to pay maybe 500, and I don't know who it was, but I got the story from B-Fred, and it went up to 800. So there's a little context on that recent sale there. I might have
for both for these white border sets, other than Premier, they don't come up super often, and my sample size for the last like 4 or 5 months is 3 for Hoth and Dagobah, and your $800 white border Dagobah and I think $500 white border Hoth set, I guess, are really tilting those averages right now. So
we got a whale, boys. We got a whale here.
They don't come up often, and I was ready to fight.
Mark, what's been the most surprising thing for you from sort of the graded perspective, or just generally, what have you seen?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not too surprising in terms of fandom, but people tend to still, I would say, as far as just collectors, tend to gravitate towards characters from the original trilogy, even though Episode 1 sets are probably more scarce. So in terms of the values of the raw cards, they tend to be higher than let's say main character cards from original trilogy sets. But in terms of buying graded cards, people in general are willing to pay probably a similar price between them, and I think it's probably driven by that kind of collecting aspect of getting the characters they love, they know and love from Star Wars fandom. But in terms of like a multiplier, let's say, of a certain grade from a card from Episode 1 or a card from original trilogy, by and large, the multiplier will be higher on cards from the original trilogy, except for maybe, say, Darth Maul. People love them some Darth Maul. It was pretty awesome. I don't know if you guys here were watching the video, went to the movie when it came out in was it 1999 or 2000, and the double lightsaber came out, and it was like the coolest thing ever. So people love them some Darth Maul. But yeah, that's kind of my observation. That was surprising to me at first. I guess the other thing too is, I think you guys hit on it, but just the price of, especially Imperial class Star Destroyer, how it's just kind of taking off. Like, it wasn't that long ago where it was like, I don't know, maybe like $200, $300, and now it's, I don't know, probably at least 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll piggyback on what Mark just said, that we see the same thing in graded cards with foils. Some of the foils are, I think graded cards get purchased more for wall art and iconic reasons, not as much by players or completionists for the set. So we saw Princess Organa foil go for $85 in a PSA 9 yesterday. I think that's a very, very rare, not like very rare, super rare, ultra rare, in a PSA 9. So I don't have the raw handy, but that's a huge ratio for a foil to raw. Usually you're looking at a raw to go like maybe 3x to a PSA 9 or 10x to a PSA 10. So that would be, I'm just picking one example, like a PSA 9 foil Leia 85 would be saying like paying the equivalent of $28 for it raw. So that's another interesting one.
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, one of the things that still surprises me in the game is how cheap most foils are, right? Like the ultra rares obviously are not cheap, but most Reflections foils, like I have a box of them where I'm like, is this even like $100 for like 100 Reflections very rare foils, right? Like there's just a whole bunch of these foils that are still like $1 or $2 or $3. Even from Reflections 2 and some of the Reflections 3 ones, and then all Endor foils in our general solo, essentially.
3PO still goes for
3PO as well. But what about you, Greg?
I mean, these are maybe not as interesting, but one thing that has surprised me just looking at my data is which sets sell most frequently. And Premiere is one of the highest selling sets, and maybe that's not super surprising. But besides that, in fact, Cloud City and Jabba's Palace sell more frequently than any other set.
I've got both of those I want to sell right now. Just
I don't really know why. I don't know if it's they printed more of those sets. Those sets sell like crazy. Premiere is a little bit behind that, and then most other sets are like nowhere close. That's always been bizarre to me. Another thing that's sort of interesting, and this is maybe a little more than over just the year, but just watching the price increase sort of starting pre-pandemic, just slightly pre-pandemic, and then obviously during the pandemic, the increase has gone in chunks. It's not like everything increased at the same time. For the first 6 months, as prices were increasing, it was very much the OT sets, Premiere through Death Star, and like maybe Reflections 2 Premium and Reflections 1 Foil. Those saw a huge increase and nothing else. And then after 6 months, you started seeing the Episode 1 sets, the AIs, Reflections 3 Premium, that started going up. And then it was quite a while before ultra rare foils and other foil singlets started increasing. And then it's really like only in the last 6 months, people have started hitting the foil sets and the white border sets. And it's almost, you could see how people have like come back to the game and started building those collections like, oh, only going to get the OT sets. Well, I got those. Let me get these Episode 1 sets. Oh, I got those. Let me get these. That's been interesting to watch over the last couple of years.
Guilty.
So I'm curious, guys, why do you think that Star Wars CCG, for my very brief amount of time in this game, or back in this game, I should say, it's been pretty stable as far as the growth and hasn't really seen a lot of the other like boom bust cycles that some other hobbies have seen, but Pokemon, for example. Why do you think that this game has kind of been a little more immune to like the ups and downs than, even Magic, I think, kind of saw a bit of a mini recession with card prices. So why has Star Wars not seen that, or maybe I just haven't seen it myself?
Sure. I got a couple reasons I think there is for that, and I would point out that I do think there are some anecdotal cards I could pick out that do seem to have slowed down. So while the overall market's going up, there was definitely some spike sales, and to that point, one, like for example, we saw a Boba Fett outlier sale for a PSA go for 406, which is a lot. At the time, it seemed like a good price, but it was during the Boba Fett show. So the most recent sale of that is down to closer to $100, I believe. So there has been some volatility in a couple cards, but not without good reason. And I think that is one of the reasons that the market is going good. Is Disney is really, and this might be I need to be careful how I phrase this because every show is so divisive. You can't make a Star Wars show without a faction of people hating it. But Disney's figuring out the content. It's not as divisive and as negative as the last three movies and the recent Kenobi show and Boba Fett show, I believe, are bringing in an excited new market, helping people get back to the game. More importantly, it's Magic and Pokemon have helped drive excitement for Star Wars CCG. However, Star Wars CCG is still niche, and I think that's the main reason here is there's people coming in knowing Star Wars CCG was at one point the number 2 most popular CCG behind just Magic back in the 90s, and it has the upside to sell for these prices that Magic and Pokemon do. I think we all believe that, especially with Star Wars and Lucasfilm branding directly in the cards, it has that kind of upside. But its floor is really high because there is a great players committee. People still play the game. There's a passionate niche fan base. So it's still currently in this niche phase. We're starting to see more and more people selling graded coming in and starting to see that growth. But in a niche industry, I think there's an overarching lesson to learn here in more of a macro business or in any industry that you're not going to see in whatever your business or industry is and as much fluctuation with a smaller customer base. And as much as I do believe that this industry will be on a similar trajectory to Pokemon and Magic one day, Pokemon and Magic blew up with the inflation that we saw during 2020 and the printing of money from the Fed. And now they're reeling back a lot more than Star Wars CCG is because they were more mainstream market at the time. So Star Wars is taking a more, maybe it's timing, maybe it's luck, maybe it never gets there. I believe it will, but there's more of a healthy growth pattern going on, in my opinion.
So I can step in if I can for a couple of minutes. Yeah, like you said, Cam, in Magic and especially Pokemon, there are lots of people like on social media. I'm pretty sure you've heard there's channels talking about pumping, or people in Facebook groups will talk about pumping. And there was certainly a lot of that because where there's a lot of attention and where there's a lot of money flowing, there's excitement and people want to get in on that. And certainly there was that in both of those hobbies where you have cards that can sometimes sell for 5 or maybe even 6 figures or maybe even more in some cases. But that was not here in Star Wars, likely because there's not a Star Wars CCG, because there's not a modern product here. So it's something that's a little bit more historic, but I think that's also a good thing in terms of overall growth. Because like you said, there's no kind of, I don't want to say explosive, but kind of volatility in the sales where it goes really, the prices go up a lot and then down a lot. There's more of maybe a healthier, slow growth to maybe where if Star Wars CCG were to be more, what's the word I'm looking for, where people knew it was there, like kind of a fair valuation. Like right now it's kind of a hidden, I want to say I'm kind of biased, maybe we'll call it a gem, right? It's like people really like it, but they just don't know they like it. And if it was out there and they kind of knew it was there, then the valuation would be kind of where it should be. And I think, again, I'm kind of biased because I really like it. I think the cards are kind of underpriced relative to their historical value and relative to kind of how much people like the characters, like the IP, like the game itself, that sort of thing. So I think that's why we haven't really seen the retraces here, just because there was never that kind of localized energy here, so to say, like that temporary, just we're interested in because there's a lot of hype here, and then the hype goes away and then the interest goes away. It's more of a slow burn.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is I think that this game, like the appeal for me, why the heck do I run an entire channel like partially devoted to this stuff? It's partially like the grassroots. It is the fact that it is kind of obscure, it is kind of niche, but it also is growing, and like that sense of momentum is really kind of exciting for for a dead game 22 years out of print, to have like energy and people thinking of new ideas and even just like bickering with each other. Like, that's great. It's great that this hasn't like withered, and that's what makes this fun to do. And I hope that people also, enjoy this stuff. Greg, did you have any thoughts on it?
Not really. I actually know very little about any other collectibles outside of Star Wars CCG. So I don't really have anything to say about it. Although maybe, here's a partial explanation. I love this game,
Right.
and I came back to it because I love it, and I collect it because I love it. And, there's got to be some percentage of people like me who are not into anything else and just doing this.
That's one thing I'll say. It's like, I actually don't want the price of most cards to go up, just because I want this to be an accessible game for people, right? Like, I understand, like, for someone coming in right now, it is damn confusing to figure out how to, like, if you have 0 cards, how do you play this game? Like, do you buy some premier sets? And maybe this is actually a video for a different day of like, what do you do if you own nothing and you want to get into this game? And we the Brain Trust can talk later about it, but it is daunting to figure out, okay, what do you do? But anyways, moving along, let's talk about Japanese card pricing. It's insane. It's silly. That's my take. Does anyone else have strong feelings about Japanese card pricing?
Well, again, there's not very many of certain cards out there, especially the Japanese. That's kind of the ones you're probably referring to, the Japanese Dark Side Hoth rares, particularly the R1s. And it's funny, it's probably not actually, although General Veers is probably the most expensive just because he's kind of the most prominent character card there. But some of the ones like the interrupts, if people were pulling them either out of Reflections 2 packs or whatnot, you can't really read it. So you just kind of assume, okay, it's like a random red card. I can't read it. It's probably not worth anything. So they're probably just, I don't know, not many of them out there where people know where they are. But yeah, if you're a completionist, you need one for your set. How many of them are out there? And that's kind of probably why it is where it's at. And, with not very many of them out there, some people might be able to get their hands on a few of them. So that even further drives down the amount of them that are available. So it's kind of one of those things where it's a very small niche group of people who are after them. But at the same time, if they all want them and there's not many of them there, well, that's what you're going to get.
I completely agree. I think it's also maybe of all the things, the most illiquid, right? Like, somebody has a Japanese Hoth set. They're asking, I don't know, $12K for it. The number of people that are willing to put up $12,000 for a Japanese Hoth set, you can maybe count on your fingers and toes, right? Like, it's just a pretty niche, like, collecting. At least that's my perspective on it. I don't really own much. I think it's interesting. I own a couple cards, but chasing the sets, I'm kind of priced out, to be honest. Anyone else kind of thoughts on Japanese cards?
Well, why don't you just call B-Fred out directly with those red R1 interrupts? If anyone's got any trampled Japanese, shoot B-Fred a message.
If he makes it to minute 43 in the video, he can come chat with me. Right? I think whoever's still with us, bless their heart, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Mark and Matt hit the nail on the head. I would add, it's definitely collector front, as Andy Talaga explained on Matt's show. Look for that episode if you haven't seen it. The text isn't really playable. It doesn't make sense for the Japanese market. It was already playing the English game before, so like it's not like being collected to played. It's from the 90%. Jim Colston said about 90% of Star Trek CCG was collected, so I'm just going to throw that figure out. 90% of the market that collects, and it's a collector's item. So where this pays off is if Star Wars CCG does go the Magic the Gathering Pokemon route and a next wave, and the Black Lotus is Darth Vader, and you want to get the Japanese variant of the Black Lotus, and it's just the super rare, cool version with flair. It's a collector's item, and the market's small. It is what it is, I guess. Like, if you're up for that risk tolerance, but you also might be up for that reward if it does pay off. There could be some extreme upside with that scarcity. So, is what it is my answer.
No, that's a good take on it, Cam. I guess, like, for me, I would much rather just have like 10 Darth Maul ultra rare foils. Like that would be like my more like sure bet as far as a card that is going to continue to increase in value. Like that's a staple. I think that card is almost hitting 1,000. I think it'll hit like maybe 12, 1,300 in the next year. Like that's my guess, which is 20% growth, which is great by any standards.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got you on record.
Yes, that's my bold prediction here, guys. So okay, we're getting to the end here. So I think everybody here on some level is a collector. So what is the one thing that you're always kind of on the hunt for? I think we're also all kind of like collectors that we might have almost everything, but I'm curious to hear kind of like what is the thing that you're always on the hunt for? For me, it's a new hobby of autograph cards. I have kind of come into it, and I think it's a really fascinating, very small market. But as the OT, the original trilogy folks die off, right? It's much harder. David Prost died, Jeremy Bullock. So you just have like who's Boba Fett. It's interesting to collect. There's all sorts of weird like I got like a card signed by like the sound technicians like that I found. So I think it's a fun one. But that's kind of one thing I'm always kind of looking for is autograph cards. What about you, Greg?
There's very little these days I'm still on the hunt for. I have one ICSD foil. I need a second. I've got a near complete second tournament foil set, so I've got my 2 curling Corvettes, and I regret so much not getting another ICSD foil back when they were cheap. So that's really the big one that I'm always on the hunt for. Other than that, I just like Be Fred with his tramples. I have a thing for Force Lightning foils. Never have enough of that. Anytime one comes by for at least even a reasonable deal, I'll take it. I'll trade for it. I'll buy it. I love them. So that's about it.
That's an iconic one. Mine is similar to Greg. It's maybe not the most obvious, but it's when I came into the game and started playing was around A New Hope Hoth. And my peak was Dagobah, even though it wasn't the most popular set. And I just can't track down a perfect PSA 10 Yoda. I collect Yoda. He's my favorite character. And I've now ripped, I think, 3 Dagobah boxes, and I've graded. I got 1 Yoda in 3 boxes, and he graded a 9. I know Mark's got the PSA 10 Yoda foil, but if anyone out there has a crispy Yoda, shoot me a message. I'll probably buy it.
Great question, Matt. Let me think. Outside the usual suspects, of course, there's certain cards that we all know and love and probably can't get enough of. I guess my thing, I really like Sealed Reflections 2-toppers. Not sure what it is about them. You can't really, although actually you might be able to get them graded as a pack. I'm not sure. I actually don't know if it's necessarily a great idea to pull them out of the wrapper to grade them because they can kind of shuffle around in there. So I get the feeling it might actually be hard to get high grades on them as far as that's concerned. But I don't know. There's just something about it for the feeling of, it was the same. It's intact from when it was pulled from the box or the case back in the day. And the other kind of sort of obscure, but not exactly obscure item is centered Luke Skywalker ultra rare foils. I don't know if you ever look at eBay when you see listings, but the vast majority of them that are out there are wildly off center for one reason or another. So whenever I can find and particularly it's great if the foil is also in good condition, but I see a well-centered Luke Skywalker ultra rare foil from Reflections 1. That's always something that just jumps out to me. Like, okay, I better get bidding on this card.
All right. I think we're going to do one last thing here. I said we were going to do half an hour. We're at 45 minutes, so it doesn't matter. With time is a flat circle, guys. So we're going to play a game of buy, sell, hold. So I'm going to kind of name off a set or a card maybe, and you guys just tell me buy, sell, hold. Maybe should we do hand gestures? You want to do live on? Let's do hand gestures so we get more in. Like thumbs up is buy, this is hold, and this is sell. All right. Limited edition premiere. It's the special edition. We got holds all around. I'm going to announce it just in case anyone's just listening. So let's say Reflections foil sets, Reflection 1 foil sets. All right, we got a couple buys. We got to sell, and I'm a hold on it. Coruscant set, that is, without AIs. So
I know what Mark's going to say, but Oh,
We got three
I might
holds.
throw you for a loop there.
Greg,
Yeah.
I'm curious, why are you a buy? It feels like they've kind of run its course in the pricing. Like, I just don't know how much higher.
I mean, with these questions, it's always like there's the seller part of me and the collector part of me. And we are at odds with each other. It's just I wish I knew what explained the uptick for Coruscant and Theod recently, but they don't seem to be stalling. And the uptick in the complete set price seems to have lagged, like the main prices went kind of nuts, 6 months ago or 9 months ago or something like that. And it took a little while for the sets to catch up, but they don't seem to be slowing down yet. So, I mean, they're expensive. It's a pricey set, but
Okay.
Yeah, stick to my guns.
All right, let's do a couple more. Luke Skywalker ultra rare foil, Jedi Knight. That is the.
always.
This is the like, this card. I every time I see it and it's under market, I will buy it. That is like my theory on it. How about Mara Jade ultra rare foil? I think Mara Jade, she's only $100, right? Essentially, which is 4 times less than the other ultra rare foils, except Lord Vader. It feels like she could see a little bit of growth. That's my theory.
There's baked in Disney equity in case she gets reintroduced.
Right, that as well, right? Like kind of hedging on the Disney equity. All right, what about, let's say Coruscant, or let's do Theed Palace AIs. I'm going to just.
I'm going with the crew here.
Yeah, I think we got all holds here. All right, let's finish. I don't want to do an easy one, but actually, I think this is maybe more complicated. Reflections 3 foil sets.
So I have to buy it at market value? Because if I had, I don't know. I'll go against the crowd here. I'll go thumbs up.
We got a little bit of mixture. I'm a sell. I'm an outlier. I'll just say that I just saw one sell for $3,000, and I have a hard time believing that price will hold. But could absolutely be wrong. I think it just feels like a lot for a foil set.
Well, most of the value is probably going to be in the top 50. I mean, it's probably the same for most sets, but compared to like Reflections 1, where I feel like from a collecting standpoint, there's a lot of kind of desirable things to a collector. You basically got like the top 10 or 15 mains in Reflections 3, with probably Darth Maul Young Apprentice being like a third to half the value of the set. So kind of lives or dies by Darth Maul Young Apprentice foil.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last one, guys. Black Border Master Set. So you're buying it, the whole thing, all 3,400 cards.
Yeah. What's the price right now?
If you're putting it together a set at a time on eBay, about 15,000. Or
So
just black border, subtract whatever, 1,000 or so.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it.
This is rough. So I guess this will be a plug for because I think it probably will do well. It's just a matter of if I were buying a black border set, I'm a collector. I'm probably interested mostly in a few cards from each set. And if I were buying a master set, I'd want to know who's selling it because there's so many cards. I want to make sure they're all, in good condition and all that. So that's kind of why I was down. But if I was getting like what I thought I was getting, maybe I'd revise that to probably a middle.
I was thumbs up because it's a safe ETF to get exposure to the industry. If you just want to buy one thing, set it away for 10 years and be done.
Actually, the last two, I know we just did the last one, but Jabba's Palace and Cloud City sets, I'm going to lump them together. For me,
Cloud City's my favorite sealed box buy right now.
I just think they're so cheap that it's $60-$70 a set. It feels like there's a lot of room there,
both from a collecting and playing standpoint. There's a lot of fun stuff, in and given how accessible they are price wise, it's both a good investment and fun to play with. I will say also Reflections 2 Premium strikes me as just criminally underpriced. I do not get why that set doesn't sell for more money.
Yeah, I just sold one for $100. It sold in like 5 seconds. I was like, I
Yeah.
think I didn't price it correctly. But that's on me.
Yeah, it's if we have time, just go that Cloud City and Java's. Like, it's funny whenever the Java's comes up. Like, what did I forget. There used to be a different card that was most highest price, but it seems recently the Princess Leia Organa has kind of taken the crown there for reasons that sometimes reach comical in the Facebook group that people are willing to point out. But yeah, I think from a collecting standpoint, between Princess Leia Organa and Jabba's Palace, and then Boba Fett and Cloud City. I mean, just based on those two cards alone, I think those are very desirable cards to collectors. And then you have all the other characters. It's
Captain Han. Yeah.
Captain Han. Yeah, great iconic background there. So yeah, I think it's they're great buys.
Well, I think we're gonna call it there. So thank you to anyone that's tuned in still. Thank you to all the lovely guests. We're gonna try to do this once a quarter. So this will be quarter 3. We'll do this again in September-ish and see what things look like in 3 months. So we'll see everybody next time.
Sounds good. Nice chatting with y'all.
Yeah, nice chatting with you guys.